is the gingerbread making session, and Rob will share. No, this is the Pathways to Publishing, and hopefully will help people out figure out what they want to do when they have their own books, and what we've done, and what some of the new things that are happening in the publishing world. So what I'm going to do is I have a couple of questions here that we'll go through, and then we'll open it up to questions later. We're here for about 45 minutes, and we'll do a brief introduction of everybody, and then we'll go from there. So I'm Mike Squatrito. I am the president of the Association of Rhode Island Authors, and also the Expo Committee Chairman, so if anything goes wrong, you can blame me on many fronts. And I'm also the author of the Overlord Fantasy book series, and I'm an engineer by day. I slay dragons at night. And I'm also a baseball player as well, and I've written my baseball memoir over this summer about winning championships and stuff from being a kid all the way to adult leagues. So it's not for children. It's like a Bull Durham kind of thing, and whatever. But that's me, and I'll go to my colleagues.
Hi, I'm Mark A. Bentley. I wrote Where Rivers Dare, the first book in the ongoing series. I'm also social media director for the Association of Rhode Island Authors.
I'm Angelina. I'm a young adult science fiction / romance writer, some new adults as well, and I'm on the board for ARIA in addition to helping with the young adult initiative that we're working on for next year. So very exciting.
So as you can see, we have a few authors in the house here today, and what we would like to do, this session is basically to help you guys more than to hear us talk. So like I said, I'm going to have a couple of questions to go through, and then we'll open it up. Before we start, raise your hands. How many people here are either published or are looking to get published?
Nice.
All right, so we've got a work cut out for us.
Yep.
Okay. So without wasting too much more time, just going to talk about the first question. I'll go to the group. How do you feel the landscape has changed between traditional publishing and modern publishing?
I think the landscape is, right now, with traditional publishing, you still have to wait a while. I mean, as long as you get agent first and then send out submissions, I think it's changed significantly from where you can easily finish a book now, get it edited, get the cover together, and then you can then upload it to Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Smashwords. You can upload it almost anywhere now, which is also kind of a downside too, because a lot of times you want to make sure the book is edited first and have a cover, a decent cover. Sometimes self-publishing can be a little bit of a little bit of a downside where you want to publish it, but it's still not ready yet. So it's any sort of publishing has its ups and downsides, and so it's something like that.
I think the diversity of different platforms, I mean, like RK said, it is a little bit of a downside of the fact that there's a lot of slush to wade through, and some people don't know when it's ready, myself included. Like my earlier stuff, I definitely kind of just put it out there and like hope for the best, which is fine. We all have to do that at some point in our lives, to get through the learning process. But I think how diverse it is gives us so many different ways, and Wattpad, even these more like informal but very legitimate publishing platforms, it's a great place to get feedback from readers and to learn new things and kind of dip your feet in the water before committing to like a paperback or a hardcover. And by going around the whole agenting process, we kind of get the opportunity to carve out our own niche and get our own exposure. So there are so many options out there, and I like the way that new ventures like hybrid publishing, for example, really give us kind of the best of both worlds. So happy to talk more about that as well if you guys are curious.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have to realize that the landscape has completely changed with the advent of the internet and do-it-yourself kind of applications and things like that. So all of my books are self-published, but I did go the traditional route the first time around trying to find an agent and a publishing house, but that doesn't always happen, right? And that was in the early 2000s, and now we find ourselves in 2021, almost 22, and there's lots of different routes to go. So traditional publishing has its own avenues, but modern publishing, like Angelina and Rob said, with hybrid and self-publishing, have their own, how I feel, rules and regulations that we should follow. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Second question. Physical books are still popular. However, do you feel that authors need also to move to digital and audio formats?
I would say for any sort of revenue stream that you can get, you should have them as paperbacks, you should have them as ebooks, you should have them as audiobooks. Any sort of revenue stream coming in to you is always a good thing to do. As long as it's priced correctly, as long as you look around and make sure that you're not overpricing yourself with ebooks these days, it can be as low as 99 cents for free, or it can be up to the same price as the paperback, which is probably not the best idea in the whole wide world. As well as audiobook too. As long as you price it correctly, and as long as you have a similar cover or the same cover. Nowadays, trying to find a cover artist, they will offer you to do the audio cover for you, obviously for a price. But as long as you have the revenue stream coming in, then it's definitely something to do.
I also want to comment on the diversity of options because, like, I can't tell you how many times someone says, I don't have time to read, and I say, do you like audiobooks? And their eyes light up like, oh my gosh, yeah, I have a long commute, I love listening to books. Like, not only is it another revenue stream, but it's a unique option for people that may not want to sit and read a book themselves. So that kind of thing is really great, and definitely go for it. Plus, it kind of gives you the chance to almost cast your own, like, movie, because when you're casting your narrator, like, they can do all your different characters and bring you that kind of elevated sort of media approach. So it's a really fun process, and I definitely recommend it. And Amazon makes it so easy through ACX to get it on there. Something I've done with my audiobooks, and I make use of the royalty share option. So I pay nothing out of pocket. I just find a narrator who's willing to do it to split the royalties. So it's just great on all sides, and there's no excuse not to because you don't have to pay for it on most occasions. So there we go.
Yeah, I think you definitely need all the platforms, like Rob said. A lot of the money streams are in physical books, digital copies, and audio. But I think one of the biggest things that I found back when, I'm not sure, when did ebooks start getting in? Around the early 2000s?
Yeah. So
when the Kindle came out?
Yeah.
So how many people remember when ebooks came out and it was like, oh, that's it, no more paperback books, no more hardcovers are going away. And there was a spike that a lot of people started getting with Kindles, and we're starting to read digital copies. And then it kind of flattened out. And the physical books never went away, which is a good thing, because I like a nice book on the beach or wherever. However, having like a device like a Kindle or any other kind of reader, iPad, whatever, allows you to have your whole library in one spot. So there are pluses and minuses. But I think one of the biggest things with the audiobooks is exactly what Angelina said. And that's, okay, now you can take a book and you can have it on your iPad, you can have it in an iPhone, you can have it someplace, you can have it in your car, you can do all that kind of stuff. So your reading has changed a little bit. And you want to keep that in mind when you are doing your own platform. Now, I would say definitely get your book ready to go, and then you make your decision. Do you want to come out with a physical copy? Do you want to go right to digital? Or do you want to, I don't think you go right to audio. I don't know if that's kind of, I think you kind of have to have a book to go that way, but it's just another avenue you can take. So keep that in mind. Also, what I wanted to let people know, if you have any questions, just raise your hand and we can address them too. Okay. Go ahead.
When you do different, how do you do different voices in an audio? Or is it just you reading what it is that you said?
Well, a lot of times with audiobooks, what will happen is that either through like into ACX or you can also find away voices. There are several different places out there that will do the audiobook for you. And what will happen is that you would send them a sample, say like 500,000 words, something like that, and then several different narrators. You would choose what type of narrator you're aiming for, and then they'll then send you samples. And so you'll have maybe 4 or 5 samples worth of, the narrator, one narrator and then different narrator. And so what'll happen is that you get to pick and choose. Now with Mike, I know Mike's going through a different, is still having Overlords done right now. It's still in the process.
It's
right?
Max.
It's Max, yeah.
Mac, our MC, is actually doing my audiobook.
Oh, fantastic.
It's actually pretty cool.
But what happens is that a lot of times, depending on how much, you can have 2 different narrators. I know John Scalzi had 2 different narrators. He had Will Wheaton and someone else who I'm blanking on right now narrate one of his audiobooks, whereas like one chapter was Will Wheaton and the next chapter was someone else. So it all depends on how much money you want to pay too, because a lot of times with multiple voices, you're going to have more money involved. So really, when you get to that stage, either ACX, Flying Away Voices, whoever you find, they'll give you samples and say, okay, this sample's good, we're going to go with this, and then you'll then have to send them a dictionary of terms and syllabus and whatever. But otherwise, once you find the narrator you're looking for, as long as you're okay with the price, then you basically just go forward from there with it.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I don't have a voice for. I tried doing like an I tried to do an Overlord reading with Max a few years ago. We had a few people in the session, and the one that sounded by far the worst was the person who wasn't a voice actor. And I was like, wow, this is horrible. They're like, yeah, you write the story. We'll do the voice. And I do have multiple people doing different parts because I have a lot of characters. So if you have a lot of female parts, you might not want to have a male person doing all the females as well. So you can mix and match. But I think like Angelina said, it's, what is it, ACX?
Yeah, ACX is brilliant. Like I said, you could pay just through your royalties. You can say, I'm going to split my royalties with you, and that way it's nothing out of pocket, and it's, I don't want to say it's free, because not technically, but it's not out of pocket, so I call that a win, Pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't done Audible yet. That's going to be the next phase. Excuse me. And I think basically when you do something like that, obviously Amazon is going to take their cut. And then, so let's make it simple. Let's say the audiobook is $10 and Amazon takes the first $3. So out of those $7, you can decide if it's 50-50, or if you have multiple voice actors, you get 50%, they get whatever cut. So it has to come to an agreement that way. But that's basically how it's done.
I don't know if you can do multiples through ACX. Like, I'm pretty sure you can. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Again, I'm new at this too, but it's just another avenue that you can take. So it's something else to think about. And I think that's, and definitely audiobooks have been, a big hit. So I don't think they're going away anytime soon. So this is, again, another platform. Any other questions before? Okay. Next one. What publishing platforms have you used and what do you recommend?
Well, with publishing platforms, I've gone, originally I was through Kindle Unlimited through Amazon, and then I decided to go wide. So Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Smashwords, Direct, Draft to Digital, and just went through all of them to go wide, because some months I make more money at Barnes & Noble than anyone on Amazon, which is nice to know. I've also gone through Wattpad to pull the readers in, so I've got maybe a couple chapters of Weaver up on Wattpad. I've got a couple chapters of the next book, and what happens is I release them through my newsletter. So I release the scenes, scene by scenes, month by month, and then once I get to the end of the chapter, I then put up on Wattpad. But there are several different other platforms out there, but generally I would say go wide if you can, and then use your newsletter and Wattpad to pull them in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I took a similar path. I published through KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, for you guys if you're not sure, which is a subset of Amazon, obviously. I have heard the term go wide, I just haven't really done it. I'm still kind of trying the KU Kindle Unlimited thing. I think some of my books are available on Barnes & Noble, but if they are, it was a total accident. Not that I don't want them on there, but I think I kind of have a habit of just hitting buttons and hoping for the best. Which, a lot of it is trial and error, and I think as you learn the process, you can go on Facebook groups and ask people for insight and help, but the system can be a little clunky. So the good thing is it's pretty forgiving. You can usually make adjustments anytime you want to, unless you're using Ingram Spark, which charges you to update your manuscript. So that's why I don't want to use Ingram Spark, because that doesn't sound like a fun thing at all. So, although I will say one benefit of Ingram Spark, which I've heard, not from experience, is that I think they let you go wide pretty easily. If I understand correctly, I think Ingram Spark is a really forerunner of the wide multi-market kind of thing. So if you don't mind the whole manuscript money grab, I guess you can do that. But again, I haven't used it, so I can't vouch or have a full opinion on it. So yeah, I've used KDP. I've done the Audible thing through ACX, and I have the ebooks as well. So yeah, I'd say just do your homework and find out what your goals are, and then choose the platform that best suits your needs. And really, you just have to do your homework. There's no way around it. So yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, regarding Ingram Spark, what happens is that libraries or bookstores won't go through Amazon, and so if you are looking to get into bookstores easier, Ingram Spark does have, if you upload and if you publish to them, yes, there will be a charge, unfortunately. But as long as you upload the final version of it, and as long as you don't need to do any more tweaking for it, it's great. But if you all of a sudden find errors and things like that, then yeah, there will be a charge. But a lot of times what happens is that Ingram Spark, you can get into bookstores easier that way. So essentially with a different ISBN number, and so the bookstores will be able to order it. My cousin down in Florida ordered my book through Barnes & Noble, and it printed out through Ingram Spark and delivered to her like that. So to give you an idea of how that works.
And by the way, Rob is our digital person here. He is basically the go-to guy on all these things. So if you have any questions, threaten to Rob, and you can talk to him after.
Don't take my method of vague.
It's not random buttons. We don't press random buttons. We try not to.
We try, but then again, that's also how you learn, trial and error. So hey, but talk to Rob, please. Don't talk to you about the techie stuff. I barely make it through.
I'm just saying, it's a little off topic. Is there a way you can angle your microphone? Because I can't hear you.
No.
Better?
Yes, much better.
Much better? Sorry, I want to make sure I'm not mouth on everything. Okay.
While we're on the topic, I know KDP Unlimited. KDP has not only ways to purchase your book, but to also with reading, like pages read.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
I think Angelina could probably cover that more than me because I've done wide, but she hasn't, so I think she can cover that more than I can.
Yeah, of course. So Kindle Unlimited involves basically people buy it as a subscription. If you put your book in KU, it means that you are kind of committing to just do the KU thing, at least for the duration of the contract, which is usually 3 months, I believe. You can set it to renew automatically, or you can set it to just do 3 months and then drop off, and then you can go wide at that point if you want to. But for the time that you're in KU, people subscribe to KU. They pay like a monthly membership fee or whatever it is, and then they get access to read your book and thousands of others for free. So what it'll do is you get page reads, which I think are like a fraction of a penny per page or something like that, so it's not like big bucks, but it's exposure. And if you have a wide audience that's in KU, you could get a lot of reviews, and you could get, some money from it. It's not like zero, it's just small. So really, KU is a great place to get more exposure, broaden your audience, and then also kind of, line your pockets a little bit. If you have enough people that are reading it, then it adds up. So for me, I don't get a ton of page reads, I'll be honest with you, because I'm still learning the whole social media thing, and I worked really hard at doing TikTok and Instagram and Facebook groups, and I've done all that, but it's just hard to get people's attention. So that's a marketing spiel for another day. But but all I'm saying is KU is a very legitimate option. Like I said, it depends on your goals. If your goals are exposure and opportunity to get more reviews, KU could be a good option. If you want to go wide and go into bookstores, I'd say don't do that, because you're contractually obligated to stay in KU for at least the duration of the period. So it's up to you.
And that's a good segue to like the bookstores and everything.
Yeah.
That's a whole different angle. My books came out in 2006, and during that time, I'm like, how am I going to get them in bookstores? How am I going to do book signings and all that kind of stuff? And it all comes down to what you want to be able to do. Like, do you want to be in every bookstore in the country? That's one avenue. Do you want to just do like Comic-Cons and things like that? That's another avenue. And it took me a while to realize that, well, I'm probably going to get my books in a bookstore in Omaha and not ever be there. No one's going to know they're there. So I do 99% of my things are in person. And I have access to Kindle books online and things like that. So I would rather do shows like this or Comic-Cons across the country, and where you can see me, but I also have another avenue available for you if you want to purchase them. So I do all my stuff through KDP. And Amazon, love them or not, it's great for authors because it puts you on a platform that you can get there. And as soon as you upload everything, and if you know what you're doing, we're going to talk about that too. You can pretty much do everything for free, and you can get it uploaded there. And as soon as it goes live across however many Amazon platforms you subscribe them to, and it gives you the breakdown of the price, the royalties by country, all that kind of stuff. So the biggest question is, what do you want to accomplish? And once you realize what you want to accomplish, then you go down that route. Okay. So, any questions? Okay. So, what has worked best for you?
I think what's worked best is making sure that you have a good cover. As long as you have a good cover, then that's really half the battle right there. As long as you have good formatting, because sometimes you open up a book and you're like, the cover looks really good, but the formatting is, it's everywhere, and you're like, okay. And you can either buy it and look through it, or but I think knowing I've got an associate's degree in graphic design, so I know just enough to be dangerous. So most of these little postcards I've put together, as long as you know where the graphics are, and as long as you know enough about Photoshop, you can then make up your own ads for it, which I've done. And so as long as you know, and put enough ad copy on there and put enough information on there, making sure that everything looks good, then that really pulls in the audience. Because I've been to conventions where they're walking by and they're not even looking because they know what they're looking for. And it's like, and once the sci-fi fans show up, they're like, okay, you have a space person or a spacesuit on your cover. Okay, so that's you got them, and then you reel them in. But it's you kind of have to know a little bit about advertising, which I didn't go to school for, even though branding, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. So as long as you brand yourself well enough, as long as you have the right cover for the right genre, and as long as the price is right, then the only thing you have to do is upsell them. So you have to be enough of an extrovert to talk to people, which for writers sometimes, if you're an introvert like I am, talk to people. Oh no. So it's kind of, you have to learn to talk to people, ask them questions like, do you like this? Do you like this? Then you'll like my book here. Buy it. It's adorable. But as long as doing that, it's kind of you learn as you go. You learn that, okay, we can only you do this, put the books out, make sure the table looks good. So you learn things as you go. It's not going to be instantaneous.
Can you remember the question, please? I'm
Sorry, I went on.
No, it's okay.
What platform worked best for you?
Yeah, for sure. No, you're fine. For me, KDP, that's what I used for my book publishing. I do think, just to take a quick, brief tangent into marketing, because I can't talk about platforms without marketing, at least for a moment. Instagram is a big deal for me because my books are primarily YA, young adult rather than new adult. So another thing to consider is how you want to reach your target demographic audience, meaning if you know that most of your audience is younger, they might be into the ebook thing, you want to do a platform that accommodates that. If your audience is older, and maybe older adults who might be into the audiobook thing more than the kids are, make sure you do something that goes well with audiobooks and gives that exposure. So in the same way that you maybe research different social media outlets to kind of get your word out, you also want to do the same with your platforms, because different platforms and different generations will probably gravitate toward different things. And then of course you also have the older adults that also are old school and like the paperbacks or the hardcovers. So it really just depends on what you want to attract. And like RK said, covers are a huge deal. I know it's don't judge a book by a cover, but people do, because we're visual people, and that's how we function when we see things. So, don't be afraid to have an idea or a vision, but make sure it's something that connects with your genre. So many times I'll see self-published books that it's a really cool cover, but I think, oh, is that a sci-fi? And you're like, no, it's self-help. And I'm like, what? So you want to make sure that you're at least brand appropriate for your story or your concept. Because it is a massive part of the experience overall.
Okay. Like how we put the introvert in the middle and center on stage too, right? Like I mentioned before, my main platform is KDP, because I do like to do things in person. So I would rather have my books with me, and then I can decide what bookstores I want to do. how much do I want to charge for, set up my own schedule, all that kind of stuff. Case in point, I wrote my baseball memoir this year. It came out in June. I'm like, okay, our team was the Rhode Island Brewers. We were a beer guzzling team that won national titles out in Arizona and won state titles in Rhode Island. Am I going to go to a library or a bookstore? How about if I pick 10 breweries around the state and do a books, baseball, and brewery store? Worked out great. So, in that theme, do we have any questions? Yes, we got.
How do
About
you
20
market stuff? How do you market your book? I mean, I could write it, but, you know, I get stuck with my own stuff, you know?
Marketing can be, it's really a learning experience where you say, okay, I'm so-and-so, and this is, you do the elevator pitch where it's like, this is a book that it's like, reading Persephone Station right now, and on the back of it, and okay, so you can look on the back of the book sometimes, and the reviewers will give you the elevator pitch, saying that if you like The Mandalorian, and if you like Casablanca, and if you like this, then this is a book for you. And that's really the elevator pitch, is the 30-second elevator pitch, and that's really what, if you're trying to market yourself, you know, even though you may not like any of that stuff that I just mentioned, but that's what you want to market yourself as. Just like you find the closest thing. Like Weaver is Babylon 5 meets Star Wars meets Firefly with a little bit of Expanse thrown in. So that's kind of, I mean, it's a little bit long on that, but it gives you an idea of like, okay, that's the elevator pitch. Or the other elevator pitch is like, okay, you have magic on so picture a coin. You have magic on one side, technology on the other, and mortality in the middle of it. And that's, you know, that doesn't explain any of what the genre stuff is, because a lot of times you want people to think of, okay, what's popular right now? Firefly is still popular, Buffy not so much, but it's like you want to try and aim for, look around and see what's popular right now, and fit yourself into that genre, or fit yourself into that. So right now we've got Wheel of Time out right now, and you've got Foundation and stuff like that. And most of the time, most people nowadays really won't know what Foundation is, because Foundation is 40 years old now, something close to that. But sometimes you really just have to look around and see what's popular right now and say, okay, my book is like this, blah, 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 you know, insert name, and stuff like that. And as long as you can do that, that gets people's attention, because what will happen is they'll flip over the book and start reading, and most of the time the back of the books are just either all of the reviews from you know, the reviewers saying essentially the exact same thing that I just said, like, if you like this and this is great, or this is a kick-ass book, or something like that. Or you'll have like that one review that's in the middle of the cover from George R.R. Martin saying, this is how space opera should be done, which is Leviathan, which is the Expanse series on right now, which is just finishing up on Amazon. But, you know, trying to market yourself like that, you know, figure out right now what's popular, and how your book, your book fits into, is similar to that. And that's kind of how, you know, to market yourself like that. And like Angelina said a couple of questions back, the cover, if it's a sci-fi cover, it's going to be a sci-fi book. Unless someone says, oh, that looks like a really good cover for self, and like she said, it's like a self-help book. Really? It's like the cover is something, you know, there are all sorts of cover guys out there right now where it's like, it's all split up into genres. And you can scroll through it until you find one that's close enough. Now, it's not going to be exactly like your book, but you want something to get the point across. Mike's books has dragons on them. Well, okay, a couple of them have dragons. The other one's a minotaur and stuff like that. But like, he does epic fantasy, so every single cover he has got D&D people on it. And you know instantly, okay, D&D, okay, that's easy enough. My stuff will have space on it. Her stuff will have YA stuff on it. So it's like, you have to look around, and also look at the genre that your book is in to see, okay, what's everyone else doing? Because everyone else has already jumped through all the hoops, got everything published. And it's like, okay, look at their cover. And if it's the silhouette of the person walking into a desert, then it's dystopia, automatically. If it's something that's got a rocket ship on it, it's sci-fi. If it's got a black and white photo of like World War I stuff and mech, then it's alt history. So it's like, as long as, you know, you have to figure out how to market yourself with, you know, just to stumble around a lot, I guess. It's just kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, once you figure out what the genre is, and then figure out, you know, your elevator pitch, because the elevator pitch is going to go on the back of this, because at that point you're going to have to write your own blurb on the back of your book, which is horrible, because after writing almost 127,000 words, I had to write this. And it's like, what do you mean I have to write this? And it also has to fit on the back of this cover too. So you also have to, you know, make sure everything fits and make sure you get the point across, because everyone's going to go, okay, no, maybe something else, and they'll move on. It's like, you've got less than 5 seconds to you know, they'll read stuff, which is why those reviews are bold-faced, because they're like, okay, get your attention.
Yeah, a lot of marketing is these days is social media.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you got to get on your platforms. There's no way you can't be on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not young enough. But
You should.
I don't have time to do
You got the personality for it.
I do. You should see my brother's TikTok account.
He has one.
He's like me on steroids, but that's a whole different platform with your social networking. Then your website has to, you know, you have to have someplace, a presence on the internet that has a way to purchase your books, has a way to show where you're going to be. It's your hub, and then off of your hub, you have your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, all of your social network links. Then you can even have a blog associated with it, an events calendar, all that kind of stuff. So marketing can be quite a bit of things. So it depends on how you want to market yourself and what you're comfortable with.
You really have to push the social media aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this day and age,
That's
you
not
really
a
do.
place that I'm comfortable.
Well, this is why we have young people that help us out.
Hi. I'm not just fried candy, folks. I mean, yeah, social media, it's a new thing, and it's funny because, like, I feel like Snapchat was kind of the precursor to TikTok. I mean, there's Vine, which I never got into. I was never into Vine. And Snapchat's still a thing, but it's weird because I always perceived Snapchat as for middle schoolers, but, like, people my age use it for various reasons, and I personally have no desire for Snapchat. I think Snapchat is good to stay in touch with friends and family, but Instagram and TikTok is good to reach an audience, especially for my target demographic. Again, that's what you have to go to. If you're doing alternative history, maybe your target demographic is adults that aren't on there, so then, okay, go to Facebook, go to Twitter, go to different social medias that have your people on it. You know, like RK said, your elevator pitch is so important. For me, I'll tell you guys, this book is a time travel, and I say it's like John Green meets Back to the Future meets The Matrix in my second book. So there's a lot of different elements to it, and I know that sounds wild, but it's very accurate if you read this book. This one is much more like Divergent and Hunger Games, because it's that dystopian, sci-fi, kind of theoretical, psychological element. So there are just a lot of different things you can compare it to, and the beauty of comparing it to something people already know and love is that you get instant credibility. Basically, oh my gosh, I love the Hunger Games, I have to see your book now. Like, it's so easy. Like, if you know the right buttons to push, like, it's so easy. Not that, like, social media stuff is easy, but, you know, what I've learned from, I took a marketing class in college, I work for a marketing agency, so I learned a lot both in those contexts. And basically, people want to, A, interact with a human being because they want to support someone they know. So let them into your life, tell them what you had for breakfast. I know it's cheesy, but bear with me here. Do all that stuff, let them be a part of your world, and when you do that, they now are like, you know, I see this person on my feed every single day, maybe I should check out their book. It's that familiarity and the connection to something they already love that makes a huge difference. So it's really just interacting with humans. Treat your online presence like you're talking to a friend. Make everybody your online friend, and they'll want to support you if you do that effectively. So
We got about 10 minutes left, so why don't we just start taking questions?
Thank you. You started to go down the path just now with what you were just saying.
yeah.
But I was wondering if you could just elaborate more on what you do with your online presence
Yeah.
that generates interest. As I say, you started to go down that just now.
For sure.
But could you say more about that? I'm trying to imagine how does TikTok, with all that funny
I know.
turn into interest in your work at all? So
Yeah.
would you say more about that, please?
Most definitely. So, really quickly, I'll tell you, TikTok is interesting because to get onto that whole thing, you really just have to watch the trends. If you're an author, look what other authors are doing. I've seen authors like talk to their younger self by flipping the camera and like mouthing words and having little captions. And I did that because this book, I literally talked to my younger self. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this trend makes sense for my book because it's exactly what my characters are doing. So I adapted it to fit my characters. So really, it's a matter of watching enough TikToks with relevant people in a similar genre. What do they do? Learning from them and jumping on the trend before it goes stale because trends change on TikTok and other social medias really fast. So it's really just picking and choosing what works for your concept and your audience. For Instagram, I've learned that, well, really anything, blogs too, you really want to give your readers or your followers something they can benefit from. They always say, what's in it for me? So maybe instead of saying buy my book every time, you can say 3 things I learned as an indie author, 3 ways to mitigate stress. Just give them something that matters to them, and then after a while, they'll start to kind of center you as an expert in your field. Whether or not you are, that's up to you, but at least fake it till you make it, and then all of a sudden people will start to kind of like take you seriously and be like, oh my gosh, like this person helped me so much in my life, like I want to support them and find out what they do with their books. And so you just have to push all the buttons and come at it from as many different angles as you can. You can also share tidbits of your life and let them into your world. That's always fun too. And then if you do resort to the buy my book thing, tell them why it matters. Tell them why they should care. Tell them what inspired your book. It's not just buy my book because I wrote it. It's buy my book because this book changed my life. And then you tell them how. See what I mean? It's a much deeper interaction and experience. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, I think just touching on what she said, a lot of people do just post about, here's my book, here's my book, here's my book, here's my book. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it here, you can get it there. And you want to be a little more personable, because we are people that just happen to be authors that happen to do other things too, and that relation is what we want to do with our fan base, because everybody does their own things, everybody is different. And if you're always showing like, here's my book, here's my book, here's my book, here's my book, well, our books aren't like vegetables where you need to eat your vegetables every day. Once you buy one of my books, like, all right, I've had enough of this guy, and if he doesn't come out with another book, I've really had enough of this guy. So, like Angela said, I think she said it perfectly. Try to have that interaction with your fan base, but give back, because they're going to buy your book, hopefully. But you want to give them something too, and that's something to keep in mind.
Back off that an online post should either be informative, educational, or entertaining.
Yes, all of it. Right.
What was the first one?
Informational.
Oh, yeah.
So, you do, these are tips that I use to mitigate stress by working a 9 to 5 and writing when I get home. Or you can do entertaining by, did you know that there's this thing, and talk about whatever rabbit hole you just fell down. And so by doing that, by broadening you're really showing the man behind the curtain. And when you show that and become a person, then they get to know you more, and then yes, they will buy the book.
Yeah, I think that exactly
Exactly true.
that works out perfectly how you said it.
Yeah.
Did any of you consider the traditional publishing route, or did you always have a sense that you were planning on going indie?
I did indie accidentally. I had a crush on this person I knew, this guy, and I wrote this story because I was fed up with him. And then I realized, oh, this is 50,000 words. Maybe I can publish it. So I did. I heard somebody at my church was like, oh, you can publish that through KDP. You don't have to wait for an agent. I'm like, oh, damn. All right. So maybe I should. And then from there, I realized I actually like writing and publishing, and I started to educate myself and learn more about formatting and writing craft and processes. And so I fell into it accidentally. But some people kind of come at it for creative reasons. So it just depends. But I am chasing a hybrid deal for my next concept. I really want to try that. So, yeah.
Let's see. Well, I started writing, and then I found Aria, and they're like, "Oh, you can publish this too." Okay, and so I sat my butt down and said, "I'm going to write it. I'm going to publish it," and that took 8 years. But once it came out, I decided to go self-publishing because I learned enough from Aria, and also I learned enough online as well. Where it's like, okay, as long as I get the cover and the formatting, as long as I get it spell checked by someone else besides me, and as long as I price it right, then, and as long as you don't mind doing all the heavy lifting, then, it's, self-publishing is fairly straightforward to do. I did have a couple of tabs open for this one for traditional publishing, but I never really pursued it that much.
Yeah, I would say, like I said, this is why we're having this panel. The landscape has really changed. Back when I started my first book in 06, before 06, I tried traditional publishing. So I was trying to find an agent. So you had to scour the internet, find agents in your genre that are reputable. You have to make sure of that, because you can find anything online. And then you got to go through that process. So let's just say I found 100 fantasy agents, and I have to look at each one's submission guidelines, get all that stuff down, write the query letter, get them sample chapters, get them synopses, and all that kind of stuff. And then you can shotgun them all out to agents, and then you wait, and you hope. And a lot of times they either don't get in touch with you, or they say no thank you. So today, we have the capability of self-publishing. And what I always tell people is, try to go down the traditional publishing route just to see what it's like. Because you're gonna wonder, because kind of when you go down self-publishing, it's kind of hard to take the same work to go to a traditional publisher instead of vice versa. So if you strike out with the traditional publishing and you really believe in your project, self-publish. And when you self-publish, you are really in total control of your work, okay? That's what I liked about it the most. However, with, how's that quote? With great responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, yes.
Make sure, I can write, right? I can write pretty well. However, I need an editor for proofreading. You must have an editor. And make sure someone else looks at your work and you refine it. Then you got to find an artist, unless you are fortunate to be able to be an artist as well. I cannot draw this good, nowhere close. So you have to find an artist. You want, like they were saying, you need a book, judge a book by its cover. Find a good artist.
Yeah.
Then you need the book formatted. So you got to find someone to format the book, if you can't do it yourself. A photographer, get yourself a good headshot. You need some promotional pictures. Get that done. Make sure you do all your homework. Get it done the way a traditional publishing house would do it. But you get to control it. Find a photographer you like. Maybe it's a friend or a small business in your town. Find those editors. Maybe it's an old high school teacher or something. But find the reputable people that you are comfortable with, and you assemble your team, and then you put your book together. And if you want to self-publish it, go through Amazon. All those pieces come together. You basically upload them to Amazon, and they take the concept and boom, they make the book. Okay? But there is this stigma. Anybody can self-publish, and that is true. I can self-publish, spell every word wrong, put a terrible picture on the cover, say it's $5.99. And Amazon go, all right, good luck. As long as it's not pornographic or, against their guidelines, it can be done. So keep that in mind. Believe it or not, it's 1:29. I think we're going to be out for 1:30, so
There you go.
thank you for coming, and we'll be in the ballroom.
Yeah.